Hey everyone, welcome to Intuitive Reading. My name is Lauren, and today we are going to do my April and May wrap up. So I know I haven't filmed in a while, but I am really needing to do this video. I did not read very many books in April, so I decided to wait until the end of May to do a wrap up. The catch, y'all already know. Okay, so in April, the first book I read was Challenger, and this is by Adam Higginbotham. This is a true story of heroism and disaster on the edge of space. Now, in my March wrap-up, if you remember, I said that I read a nonfiction book, but I actually did not finish this until April. So I scrapped that footage of where I was talking about this so that I can include it in April. And this is a nonfiction book about the Challenger disaster. If you know anything about the space program, Challenger is the space shuttle that blew up before it got out of the Earth's atmosphere. I knew some about Challenger going into this book, but this was a much more in-depth look. This actually follows the space program from when it started all the way through the end of the space program. So this was really neat. I did not rate it just because I don't rate nonfiction, but I really enjoyed this book. The sciencey stuff was a little over my head, but it didn't have too much of that. It didn't take away from the story. It did talk about the, I believe there was 7 astronauts on Challenger, including a school teacher. And so it talked about, as they were going through the space program, talked about their lives beforehand, which was really cool, and how they came to be astronauts. And then it also talked about the day of the Challenger disaster. I have been to Kennedy Space Center, and they have an exhibit on Challenger there. Or it's not an exhibit, I guess it's like part of the museum dedicated to Challenger. It's really neat. But anyway, this is just a part of history that, you know, another thing in history that fascinates me. So there you go. All right, the next book I read in April was The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus by Jamie Jo Wright. This is the second Jamie Jo Wright book I have read. I did enjoy this one. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, rounded it up to 4 on Goodreads. This one I got a little bit confused by. The historical timeline was a little confusing to me at times. But I did enjoy the overall story. It did keep me guessing as to what was going on the whole time. The ending of it was kind of a letdown. I feel like for some reason I felt disappointed at the end. And I think it's because I built it up so much in my mind. And then it was kind of just a practical explanation, which I feel like Jamie Jo Wright does a lot in her books. Like, there's a lot of suspense elements, and then there's always practical explanations. So I guess it was just a me problem. I don't know, but I still enjoyed this book overall. Okay, the next book I have to talk about is If the Boot Fits by Karen Whitmire. Really enjoyed this book. This one I gave 5 stars. It did take me a little while to read it because I read it physically, but this was a Cinderella retelling, and I really enjoyed that this was gender swapped. So the male main character was like the Cinderella character, and the female was like the prince. So this was really enjoyable. I love Karen Whitmire's writing. This is not the first Karen Whitmire book that I have read, but it was really, really good. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars. The last book I read in April was The Mystery of the Clockwork Sparrow. And this is by Catherine Woodfine. This was just a fun little like cozy mystery type book. This is about Sophie. She gets a job at Sinclair's department store, and there is a burglary at the store, and she's basically accused of doing it. And her and some of her friends try to find out who done it, and it was just a really fun, cozy mystery book. This book I did give 4 stars, and I plan on continuing in this series. Okay, now for my May reads. You guys know that in May we had the Southern Charm Readathon, which I was a co-host for. So I will insert my bingo board so that you can see how I did on this challenge for this month. I did a lot of good reading in May, and I'm super excited to talk about everything I read. So these are going to be in no particular order. I read Titanic Young Survivors, and this was a nonfiction. I actually started in April, but I didn't finish until May. This was about the children on the Titanic that survived, and this had some really interesting stories. I didn't know much about the children on the Titanic going into this, and so it was a really interesting book. I did not rate it. Like I said, I don't rate nonfiction. So, but I did really enjoy this, and it was a very short book. So highly recommend that if you like that part of history. The next book I read was All the Stars by Mandy Blake. This is again in the Unfailing Love series. I am trying to read this entire series this year, and this is book number 5. This book was set in a small town, and again, it was just a really cute love story. This one is Leah and Brian, and yeah, this was just like, these are just like comfort reads, palate cleansers type of books. So they're just really sweet. They're quick reads. So yeah, really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars as well. The next book I am going to talk about is The Lily Gate, and I will insert that here. This was a book I read on my phone through BookFunnel. So The Lily Gate is by Hannah Sandvig. I'm not really sure how to say her last name. But it is a Frog Prince retelling, and I did buddy read this with Taylor at Tales and Treats with Tay. We both kind of had the same thoughts on this book. It was just okay for both of us. It was, you know, a fun little read. There's a set of trials for the main character to find her love interest. And she has them do all different kinds of tasks, and it was just okay. I gave this book 3 stars. The next book I'm going to talk about is Meet Your Maker by Ellie Alexander. This was a buddy read that I started with Amanda over at Book Lover Amanda. I started this buddy read with her in February, and I just finished this book in May. So that was a fail on my part. But I did physically read this one as well. That's why it took me so long. But I really enjoyed this book. This is the first book in her Bake Shop Mystery series, and I plan on continuing in this series. I really like the storyline. I liked the characters. This is about Juliet Capshaw, and she has been working on a cruise ship, and she comes home to work in her family's bake shop in a small town. And a murder happens, and she is trying to find out who done it. It's just a really cute, cozy mystery, and I gave this 4 stars. So, yeah. And I do plan on continuing in that series. The next book I'm going to talk about is Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly, and this is a buddy read I also did with Amanda, and we both really like this book. I had read this book before, so this was a reread for me. I remember a lot of things about it, but then there were details that I couldn't remember, so I wanted to reread it. This is a book that really stuck with me. There were parts of it that really stuck with me, just because they were so memorable. And if you know me, my memory is terrible. So for me to remember anything in a book is like a miracle. So anyway, this follows 3 perspectives during World War II. It's World War II historical fiction, which y'all know is my fave. So this follows Herta, who is German, and she ends up becoming a doctor. And so her perspective is really important in this because it really gives the perspective that I don't feel like we get a lot of times in World War II historical fiction. It really shows you how the German people viewed the Jews, and political prisoners and things like that. It just really, you really got into their psyche and started to understand like, oh, like that's how, they could do such horrible things and everything. So, not that it was justified by any means, that's not what I mean, but you can kind of, in a way, understand because of the way that they thought, why they thought the way they did. It was, they were brainwashed pretty much. But this also follows Kasia, who is a Polish teenager, and she ends up at a concentration camp called Ravensbrück. And it talks about her time there and how she was experimented on and what that was like. And so yeah. And then there is Caroline's perspective. Caroline Faraday was a historical figure, and so Caroline is a liaison to the French consulate, and she does a lot of work involving like orphans, and she provides aid for them and everything. And so anyway, their stories intertwine towards the end of the book, and it's just a very impactful read. A lot of emotions in this book. It's very heartbreaking, but also it's just an important story. It does talk about real events in history, and it's just one of those really memorable, impactful reads, and I feel like it's really important. So I would recommend this book. There are some kind of hard-hitting topics in it, so be aware of that going in, but I would recommend this book. It is secular, but it is important. The last book I have is The Christmas Blessing, and this is by Donna Van Leer. This is the sequel to The Christmas Shoes, which I read at Christmas time. I wanted to continue in this, and after Lilac Girls, I just needed something light and fluffy that I was gonna read quickly, and this was the book. Let me tell you, I love this series. So good. Yeah, so this basically follows the little boy from the first story, and he becomes a doctor. And it really, well, he's in med school to become a doctor. And it follows his time during his third year of med school. And I just really enjoyed this. It was really good. It's just a sweet story. There is some faith content in here, and I just love these books. I also read a book called Prince of Swans in May. This was also a buddy read with Taylor. And so this also we thought was just okay. So that is my April and May wrap up. Oh, I want to go over the prompts, y'all. Go over the prompts that I fulfilled for this month. I will do the other challenges first, the other book challenges I'm doing this month, and then we will go through the Southern Charm Readathon prompts. For Oshina's Christian Romance Challenge, I did use If the Boot Fits by Karen Whitmire for a new series, because it's a new series to me, because that was the first book I've ever read in that series. I also used it as a new purchase because I did purchase it to read it. I also used that as a historical book. For Amanda's annual Southern Comfort Reading Challenge, the prompt for May was Southern Music and Dancing, a book featuring music or dancing. And I used All the Stars by Mandy Blake, because in that book, they do live music. So some of the characters in that book do sing and play instruments and stuff, and it does talk about that in there. So I used that book for that. For April, the prompt was Southern Springtime Blooms, a book with flowers or a garden on the cover, and I used If the Boot Fits because there are like flowers down here on the cover. For Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge for April, the prompt was flowers. So I also used If the Boot Fits for that one. And then for May, the prompt was a favorite. And so I used the Titanic Young Survivors for that, because this book, this is one of my favorite time periods in history to learn about. So I used favorite for that one. So for the Southern Charm Readathon prompts, for Bless Your Heart, a book that tugs at your heartstrings, I chose Lilac Girls, because this one definitely tugs at your heartstrings. I also could have done The Christmas Blessing, because that's definitely one of those as well. Well, I declare a mystery, thriller, or book with twists. For that one, I did Meet Your Baker, because this one definitely had a twist towards the end that I did not see. And yeah, so that's why I chose this one. Well, look who it is, a book with more than one POV. For that, I also chose Lilac Girls. I also could have chosen the Mandy Blake book, All the Stars. This one also has that as well. Number 4, let's see. Home is Where the Heart Is, a book set in a small town or has strong family themes. So for that, I chose this book because this is always a small town. It's the same small town in every book, and usually it has strong family themes in it. For free space, I chose The Lily Gate because that didn't really fit anywhere else. For Hold Your Horses, a slow burn romance, or takes its time to unfold, that is definitely this book. These are always slow burns. Country Roads Take Me Home, a book in a series or a reread. Again, this one fit a lot of prompts. This is a book in a series. I also could have used Lilac Girls because it's a reread and it's a book in a series. Either one. Y'all Come Back Now, book set in the South or a rural area. This is the only prompt I did not fulfill. I did not have a book for that. So, yeah. Happier Than a Pig in Mud, a book that brings you joy or makes you laugh. This one brings me joy. I just love these books. They're just so good. So yeah, that was my bingo board for the Southern Charm Readathon. Again, I'll put it here so you can see how it ended up. But yeah, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye.